Well, good day, and it's a great day to be back with the Chamber. Thank you for gathering for this very special day. It's a day when the administration's work and the legislature's work kind of culminate annually in the release of a budget, and that's what we're going to be doing a little bit later. But before I do, I want to recognize a few more individuals who are here. I know that Lieutenant Governor Meade Treadwell is also here. Where are you, Meade? Back here. We have several commissioners, several members of my cabinet are here, and that would be Commissioner Susan Bell. Where are you, Susan? Commissioner Bell. Commissioner Schmidt of Corrections, and Commissioner Butcher, Department of Revenue. Where are you, Commissioner? Back here. Did I miss any commissioners in the room? Let's give them a hand. And there are a number of people who work behind the scenes very diligently on behalf of Alaskans for my office. A couple of them I want to point out, and there are more here, but Mike Nizick, Chief of Staff, is here. We've got Cindy Sims, Deputy Chief of Staff, and Heather Brakes, our legislative liaison, who does all things legislative. Somebody who you all know, but who has recently come into our Anchorage office, it's Anchorage Office Director Nancy Dahlstrom. You're here. And we also have two special assistants that I want to bring to your attention, Jeff Jones and Diane Bloom. So Diane's here, and Jeff, where are you? Yeah, he's sitting in the back. And then she who has carried the weight of a lot in this year, and her great team at OMB, our Office of Management and Budget Director, Karen Rayfeld, is here. So in December, I rolled out my proposed budget for you, and we went through it. I set a spending limit, and I'm here today to report the legislature stuck to it. I heard that. Good. That was fantastic. It really is it was a good working relationship in that respect. And today I have signed most of the budgets, exercised the veto pen a little bit, and we'll be releasing those here very shortly. Mayor Sullivan, you're safe. I'll tell you more about some of the details of the budget in just a few minutes, but let's be clear about one thing. Alaska's cash position is strong as it's ever been. We start from a position of strength. We've been running surpluses at these high oil prices. We've been imposing ever greater spending discipline over years past. We've worked hard to create a climate for investment across all sectors of our economy. We've been clear-eyed, clear-headed, and fiscally smart about the risks and liabilities facing our state. We have had several meaningful successes this winter as well, I want to point to. They include greater educational opportunity. Our young people now have in place the Alaska Performance Scholarships. We completed work this year on the funding mechanism for that. 2 years ago, we set the criteria for these performance scholarships, and this year, with the legislature's help, we put a higher education fund into place with $400 million in that fund so that we can use the earnings off of that fund on a sustainable basis for these scholarships and education grants. So now our students can work harder, and they can earn the reward of a performance scholarship for years to come. Besides greater educational opportunity, our young people are better protected. Public safety legislation that our administration sponsored strengthened Alaska's laws on sex trafficking and human trafficking. Also in the public safety arena, I continue to fulfill on my commitment to put 15 new village VPSOs, village public safety officers, in communities that don't have any law enforcement right now, as well as the necessary trooper support behind those individuals. 120 communities joined in our Choose Respect rallies in March as we work and continue to work to end the epidemic of domestic violence and sexual assault in our state. Behind this solid record of public safety, we made some progress on the resources front as well. We got to yes on Point Thompson. Resolution of the Point Thompson litigation means billions more in investment dollars in Alaska. It means more Alaskans going to work. And in 3 years, we can see production from that field. Going forward, we have a sound budget. And that's really what I'm here for today. thanks in part to my executive team, our commissioners, agencies, legislators, staff. And that budget is defined by sound investments in infrastructure, education, public safety, energy. Let's talk about the big picture, kind of the cash side of the equation. Our permanent funds ended March with a value of $41.5 billion, the highest month-end closing value in its history. Our state rainy day fund, those budget reserves, have more than $15 billion in them. Remember that those budget reserves, those rainy day funds, they represent fully 1/3 of all 50 states' rainy day funds put together. That is financial strength. 49 other states would trade places with us at this point. Our revenues remain strong because, and you know how this sentence ends, high oil prices have masked oil production decline. And the bottom line, though, our state's current cash position is solid. I mentioned it before that we were able to turn a positive corner with the budget. It took 3 sessions, but this year, both the House and the Senate joined with me and believed me when I said that I would enforce a spending limit. In 2010, it wasn't like that, and I ended up setting a new Alaska veto record of just over $300 million. Last year, I set another new veto record in 2011, and that time I vetoed over $400 million. In that case, the House was working with me, but in those 2 years, we put over $700 million back into the bank for Alaskans, so we have them when times are leaner. This year, real progress. Both the House and the Senate and the Governor agreed to a spending limit on the capital budget, and we had a more disciplined budget process. We put more into savings. We all work better together on the budget for Alaskans. That's something to be thankful for. So why don't I just lead some applause for our legislators in this. So let's take a look at the larger budget components, starting with more detail of amounts going into savings. This budget saves $2 billion in direct deposits into the statutory budget reserve fund, with a potential of up to $3.4 billion going there, depending on the projected balances. Some other more prominent new savings, $400 million got put to the higher education fund, as I mentioned, for those performance scholarships and Alaska Advantage grants. $1.2 billion went to the public education fund to forward fund K-12 for 14, a year from now. $50 million to a ferry replacement fund. $125 million to the new Sustainable Energy Fund to help finance future energy projects. Those are some of the examples of where the savings went to. Onto the capital budget. The capital budget totals $2.9 billion. It's very healthy, but that spending limit that I set was effectively to spend at the same level where we are today, where we spent last year with the legislature, so that we do not spike our spending with incoming revenues, with the substantial surpluses we're experiencing. The slide shows highlights of the capital budget and GO bonds, general obligation bonds. But just for a little bit more detail, the statewide infrastructure projects comprise over $1.6 billion. Statewide energy projects are $248 million. Capital projects in the education arena total over $431 million. And that includes rural schools that we've needed to build or restore for some time. Also, university facilities, other education facilities, like libraries and archives, are all included. Public safety projects totaling more than $150 million for emergency response, disaster preparedness, first responder equipment, and facilities statewide. And more specific to this area, if you include the general obligation bonds voters will decide upon this coming election season, Anchorage and the Mat-Su will have over $780 million in projects in the budget, including ports, roads, police and fire department upgrades, health facilities, local school projects, and park improvements. That means there will be a healthy amount of construction work on the streets across the next 5 years. So now to the operating budget. Growth was limited to 3.3% on a total funds basis. And as a reminder, much of the operating budget growth is driven by statutory budget formulas. Clearly, one of our focus areas this year is in the realm of education. I've called it the education session. Early in the session, some accused us of not standing for education because we did not rush headlong into funding automatically a formula. We demanded accountability. I thought it more principled to require the districts to show how the money would be spent and how it would benefit Alaska's children, and some legislators joined with me in that. With more accountability assurances, we added over $50 million directly to K-12 education. I'll talk a little bit about it later, but we spent over $150 million more on education in general, but $50 million more that directly benefits the K-12 classrooms.